Hey everybody, it's Eric Pappenfuss. It's Friday, so it must be a buy day. And we're here in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania at the Dimmick Memorial Library for their semi-annual library sale. Now Cathy, if you can take some images of the library, what people will see right away is that it's a beautiful Victorian library. It's built in the 1870s. But in the 1970s, there's a horrible fire. And the shell of the library was kept, but the interior of the library was burned, and many of the books were charred. But did that stop us from buying original books from the Dimmick Library? No! Let's get right to the book. What we have today is a veritable who's who of books from the Gilded Age. And we're going to start with a book by Dimmick, or from Dimmick's library himself. And if we open it up, you will see that this is from, originally inscribed to Milo Dimmick, who was the father of Milton Dimmick, who endowed the library. And Milo, as you can see, was a member of the House of Representatives and lived just up the street, about 1 block. Now, apparently there were 3 ways to make your money in the town of Jim Thorpe. You could be in coal, you could be in railroads, or you could be in banking. And Dimmick was in banking. And what makes this book interesting, if you want to zoom in on the title page, is that it's not only a fiscal history of Texas, revenues, debts, and currencies, but it's written by an author who is the author of A Short History of Paper Money and Banking in the United States. So a really appropriate book for Dimmick to have. Now, Dimmick served in Congress right before another person named Lilly, William Lilly, served in Congress. And we found this Harper's Magazine up in the garret area of the library. And here's a picture of William Lilly, who is also from what was then called Mausoleum. And William Lilly lived across the street from the library right there in the Purple House. If you zoom around, you're going to see William Lilly's house. And we also have a book that is from William Lilly's library. There he is in Mauchunk, PA, and he was in Congress just after Dimmick. And Lilly made his money in the coal portion of Mauchunk. We're going to take you around town because, as I say, we have books of a veritable who's who of influential people from the Gilded Age of Mauchunk. We've magically teleported to a beautiful place in Jim Thorpe. It is the home of the Packer Mansion. This is the Asa Packer Mansion behind me, a wonderful Italianate mansion that was designed by the Philadelphia architect Samuel Sloan. And we actually have books at the Scholar that show the designs for this very house. Now, Packer made his fortune in the railroad. And it was such a vast fortune that when he died, he left it to his daughter. And his daughter became the most wealthy woman in all of America. That's right. And she was the second most wealthy person in the world. Do you know who that was to? To the Queen of England herself, Queen Victoria. And let's get right to the daughter. The daughter's name was Mrs. Mary Packer Cummings. And we found this wonderful book also at the library sale this morning. She donated a copy of a work by Ernest Thompson Seton, who was a great naturalist and a great drawer of animals. Among those animals drawn, he drew bears, and that's important because Mauchunk is the native word for Bear Mountain. At any rate, Mary also was so important in the town that she built the church that exists right in eyesight of the mansion, and she had to elevate the church and make it big enough so she could see it from her bedroom window. Now, her brothers were supposed to inherit the railroad. This is the Lehigh Valley Railroad, and when Asa Packer died, the son, Harry, decided to build his own mansion right here, directly next to his father's mansion. But he ended up being a bit of a spendthrift. He passes away, and eventually the railroad is sold to none other than J.P. Morgan, which upsets Mary very much. And as a final anecdote, Cathy, now today, the Harry Packer Mansion, well, it hosts murder mystery weekends. This building is also supposedly the inspiration for Disney's Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. See you in a minute. We're here at the Jim Thorpe Mausoleum and gravesite here in Jim Thorpe, PA. Jim Thorpe's actually buried here in a monument, which has the famous quote from King Gustav of Stockholm at the 1912 Olympics, in which he called Jim Thorpe the greatest athlete in the world. It's said that they scattered dirt from all over the world here at the grave, from the Polo Grounds in New York City where he played ball, from the Carlisle Industrial School where he went to school, and even from the stadium in Stockholm, Sweden. But come this way a little bit, because I want to tell you a little bit about David Marinus's book, which we recently had a great book talk from him at the Scholar. You can see that on the YouTube channel if you want to learn more about Jim Thorpe. But unfortunately, the tale of Jim Thorpe's body is one of, it's very sordid. And after his death, his widow basically sold his body to the highest bidder. And I guess in Harrisburg we're familiar with municipal officials buying everything from incinerators to Wild West artifacts, but at least we never bought a body. But the commissioners in Mauchunk, they did. Because by the 1950s, when Jim Thorpe died, there were no more Packers, there were no more Lillys, there were no more Dimmicks. The town had really sort of lost its way, and it was looking to reinvent itself. And the deal with Jim Thorpe's widow was they would rename the towns of East and West Mauchunk, they'd rename them Jim Thorpe, and they'd create a suitable monument for him here. And as sordid as that tale is, it's made even worse when you know that we're standing at the end point of something called the Walking Purchase. And the Walking Purchase was the greatest land swindle in all of American history. It happened in the 1730s when the children of William Penn made a treaty with the Lenape Indians, and they basically said, we'll take just as much land as somebody can walk in about a day and a half. And the Lenapes said, okay, that's fine, expecting a leisurely stroll. And then Penn scoured the colony to find the 3 fastest runners, cut a trail in the woods, and basically had them sprint for a day and a half all the way here to Jim Thorpe, PA, creating a land grab that was almost the size of Rhode Island. Something which the native Delaware Indians have been fighting in court to this very day in Pennsylvania. So certainly not the most appropriate place for Jim Thorpe. I wanted to show you one more book, though, so you can learn a little bit more about Jim Thorpe. It is an interesting book from Harrisburg's history, partly because it was published in Harrisburg. It was published by J. Horace McFarland, who was a leader of the City Beautiful movement, and it was published at his press, the Mount Pleasant Press, which is, if you know Harrisburg, is the site of the Great Wall collapse in Harrisburg's history. It was actually published, and then it was bound in book presses that were manufactured by the Hickok Company, which is a Harrisburg manufacturing company. And Bill Hickok was the football coach, one of the football coaches. He came from Yale, of Jim Thorpe at the Carlisle Industrial School. And another was the great sort of Yaley Vance McCormick, who went on to become mayor of Harrisburg, but started out coaching. And they basically taught the players there how to play like the Ivy League so well that they ended up winning. And of course, Jim Thorpe goes on to great fame. This book is based on a lot of history. There's much interesting information about the school, even if the history of the Carlisle Industrial School is problematic. It is a local history and a story. It's inscribed by the author that we should know, and a fitting one to tell here in Jim Thorpe, PA. All right, Cathy, we're going to end with a funny book. We're at a cemetery. We've been doing history all day. It's hard to be funny, but I'll try and be funny anyway, because I found this book really amusing. It's another sort of do-it-yourself how-to book, right?
Sure.
Well, it's unlike any other that I've seen, because it's fancy coffins, but better than that, it's to make yourself, which is a step-by-step guide to how to make your own coffin. Not really sure who's buying that book or why they're buying it, but a funny book nonetheless, a Schiffer book, a Pennsylvania book in and of, and any author photo with a top hat is good by me. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you'll watch next week and every week, Fridays at noon, for more adventures in the world of books.